I was halfway through my caramel latte when the notification lit up my phone. Michael Sanders just got married. The name hit me like a whisper that screamed. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Some algorithm glitch. Some other Michael Sanders. But then I saw the photo. A wedding shot, perfect in its golden hour lighting. Him in a tailored tux, smile wide and polished, holding her hand, her. A woman I'd never seen before. Blonde. Glamorous. Smiling like she owned the world. And him, smiling like I never existed. The caption? Forever starts now hashtag Mr. and Mrs. Sanders hashtag just married hashtag Maui wedding. My thumb hovered over the screen as if touching it might change the reality. The room around me, the little coffee shop in downtown San Francisco, suddenly felt too loud, too bright, too fake. Baristas laughing. Milk steaming. Cups clinking. And inside me? Nothing. No tears. Not yet. Just silence. A quiet implosion. Michael. My Michael. We had talked about marriage. For years. Whispered it between movie nights, Sunday brunches, and long walks on the pier. It wasn't a maybe. It wasn't even a someday. It was a when. He used to say, "You're it for me, Em. You're the end of my story." But apparently, I was just a chapter he skipped without reading. I don't know how long I stared at that photo. The wedding. The beach. The guests. I recognized a few, his cousin Brad, his best friend Danny. People who once cheered for us, toasted to our forever, clinked glasses in our apartment when we first moved in together. People I thought would be there when we said, "I do." And now? They were wearing linen suits and pastel dresses, smiling in the background like nothing had been erased. Like I was never even part of the picture. I wasn't tagged. I wasn't even blocked. I was just forgotten. I locked my phone and placed it gently on the table. The coffee had gone cold. My heart, colder. The door chimed as another customer walked in. The world kept spinning. My chest stayed still. It didn't hurt the way heartbreaks usually do. It didn't feel like something was breaking. It felt like something had already broken long ago, and this was just the proof I had refused to see. He didn't even tell me. Not a call. Not a message. Not a goodbye. We had been on a break, as he called it. Some space while he figured things out. He said he needed clarity, not distance. Said he still loved me. Asked me not to move on, to wait. And I did. I waited for 3 months. Waited for clarity. Waited for love to win. Waited for a man who promised he'd come back. And today, I found out he went all the way to Maui to marry someone else. Someone who wasn't me. I paid for the coffee and walked outside. The cold February air slapped my face like truth. It was over. But the part that stung the most wasn't that he married someone else. It was that I had spent years preparing myself to be the perfect woman for him. I had twisted my dreams to fit his comfort. I said no to job offers in New York to stay near his family in Santa Barbara. I learned to cook his favorite meals. I memorized his schedule. I planned my life around his timeline. I never asked for a ring too soon. Never pushed. Never begged. I gave him space. And in that space, he gave my future to someone else. The worst part? I hadn't even told my friends we were on a break. I had protected his image. Covered for him. Said he was just busy with work. Told them, we're figuring things out. I hadn't even allowed myself to say it out loud. He left. I didn't want them to see me as the woman who got left behind. And now, they'd see me as the woman who got replaced. My phone buzzed again. A text. From Jessica, a college friend I hadn't spoken to in months. I just saw Michael's post. Are you okay? I didn't reply. Because I didn't know. What is okay when the man you thought would be your husband marries a stranger and forgets to tell you? Is okay when your heart stays still while your whole body is vibrating with betrayal? Is okay when silence hurts louder than any scream? I walked the streets like a ghost. Past flower shops, bakeries, bookstores, the places we used to visit. Every step was a memory minefield. His voice in my head, let's live in the city for a bit before we settle down. Maybe 2 years max. That was 5 years ago. He never left. But now he had. I crossed the intersection and turned toward my apartment, the one we once shared. His bookshelf was still in the living room. His record player still sat in the corner, even though I hadn't played it in months. I had held on to all the little things, thinking they meant something. But now they just felt like trash with sentimental tags. I opened the door and collapsed on the couch. Still no tears. Just disbelief. I imagined him in Maui, holding her hand, whispering promises that were once mine. I pictured her laughing. I pictured the vows. The kiss. And in that moment, I didn't feel angry. I felt humiliated. Not because he left, but because I stayed. Because I waited. Because I believed. I stared at the ceiling. And finally, the tears came. Not sobs. Not wails. Just quiet drops. Each one a goodbye to a version of myself I didn't want to carry anymore. The one who stayed too long. The one who believed too much. The one who waited in silence for a man who never planned to return. I cried until my chest loosened. Until the numbness faded. Until I could feel the floor beneath me and the weight of my own body anchoring me back to the now. And then I stood up, wiped my face, walked to the bookshelf and started taking down his things. One by one. Not out of rage. Not out of revenge. But because I was done being a placeholder in someone else's story. Because I realized something small and true and life-changing. He chose someone else. And now, so will I. There's a reason I held on for so long. A reason I stayed quiet. It started long before Michael. Before love and loyalty and late-night promises. It started in a small 2-story house in Orange County, California. The one with beige siding, flower beds Mom never managed to keep alive, and a front door that always creaked when you walked in. That's where I learned how to love and how to wait. My mother, Susan Carter, was the type of woman who believed in appearances. Her hair was always done, lipstick perfectly lined, apron spotless even when dinner burned. She smiled for guests, laughed when the neighbors came over. But behind closed doors she expected everything and offered little. My father, Mark, was the quiet kind. A man who worked long hours at the bank and spoke even less. He loved me, I think, in the way people love shadows, present but never quite seen. Then there was Megan, my older sister by 3 years. Golden child, straight-A student, homecoming queen, daddy's favorite. If I got an A, Megan got an A+. If I cleaned the dishes, Megan had already scrubbed the floor. She didn't try to compete. She just existed as if the world had already voted her better. And I learned to fade, to help, to be useful. I remember one night, I was 11, I came home from school with a painting I had worked on for a week. A winter scene, full of blues and whites and tiny trees I'd carefully dotted with snow. Mom barely glanced at it. "Put it on the fridge if you want," she said, stirring her sauce. 2 hours later, Megan walked in with a trophy, first place in the science fair. Dad clapped. Mom took pictures. Megan beamed. My painting? It was still on the kitchen counter, face down. That's how it always was. I wasn't abused. I wasn't mistreated. But I was unseen. So I learned to show love quietly. To wait my turn. To earn praise through silence. That's the way I loved Michael. I met him during my sophomore year at UCLA. He was charming, soft-spoken, a political science major with a dimple on his left cheek and a smile that felt like home. We started talking after a group project. He said I was thoughtful, different. I think I fell in love the first time he walked me to my car in the rain and waited until I was inside before he left. He made me feel chosen. But even from the beginning, I noticed the imbalance. I was always adjusting to him. He never adjusted to me. He wanted to live near his parents after graduation, so I passed on a grad program in New York. He didn't like dogs, so I gave my childhood beagle to my aunt. He preferred minimalism, so I boxed up my colorful decor and turned our apartment into a Pinterest-neutral beige. When his startup failed, I picked up 2 extra shifts as a copy editor, paid rent while he figured things out. I kept waiting for the moment he'd see everything I gave. But he never asked me to stop. So I kept going. That's the part no one tells you about quiet women. We bleed silently. We ache without asking for attention. And when we leave, people act surprised, even if we've been disappearing for years. I remember one night, year 4 of our relationship, I asked him if he still saw a future with me. He was watching TV. Didn't even mute it. Of course, babe, he said. You know that. Then, he turned up the volume. That night, I cried in the shower. Not because he said no, but because he didn't even bother to say yes like he meant it. Still, I stayed. Because what would I do if I left? My family wasn't the warm, kind you run home to. And Megan? She had married a doctor, moved to Arizona, and still managed to make every holiday about her Instagram perfect life. Our calls were polite but empty. She never asked how I was. Just told me about her latest yoga retreat or baby's milestone. I was alone, except for Michael. And so I made his world my world, until he chose someone else to build a future with. Looking back, I think I loved the hope of him more than the reality of him. I believed, maybe one day, he'd turn around and say, I see you. I choose you. That's the wound I carried, the same one that started in that little kitchen with the forgotten painting. Always the girl who did everything right. Always the girl who was never enough. 3 months after that quiet dinner where I asked about our future, Michael proposed. But not to me. The photo showed up on my cousin Jenna's Instagram story. I wasn't even following her anymore. We hadn't talked in years, but a mutual friend sent me the screenshot. It was at a vineyard. She wore white. He wore navy. There was a rustic wooden arch, candles, a violinist, and a caption. She said yes. The she wasn't me. It was Sarah. Sarah Lynn. A girl I had seen once at Michael's co-worker's barbecue. Tall, funny, marketing degree. One of those women who walks like she belongs in every room. She had laughed at one of his jokes, then looked at me with that polite smile some women give. The one that says, I know I could have him if I wanted, but I won't, unless I change my mind. She did. And he let her. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. I stared at the photo on my phone and blinked. Then I did something that surprised even me. I called him. It rang twice. Then voicemail. So I texted. Saw the post. Congrats, I guess? He didn't reply. 2 days later he did, but not to explain. Not to apologize. Just a 6-word message. Didn't want to hurt you, Em. That was it. No explanation. No, we need to talk. No closure. He just walked away from our 5-year relationship like it was a bad haircut he had outgrown. I sat on my kitchen floor that night, back against the fridge, knees to my chest. My apartment, the one we used to share, still had his handwriting on sticky notes in the drawer. His old hoodie was in the laundry basket. The last mug he drank coffee from was still in the cabinet. The silence felt like a scream. I didn't call anyone. Who would I call? Mom would say, well, at least now you know. Megan would probably not even pick up. And I was tired of being the one who always had to pretend I was fine. The next morning, I got another text. This one from his mother, of all people. Michael wanted to tell you himself, but it was hard. Please don't make this more painful for him. Hope you understand. Hope I understand? Hope I understand? I wanted to throw the phone across the room. I gave this man everything. My time, my plans, my love, my loyalty, and now I was being told to not make his life harder? My hands shook as I typed a reply. Then I deleted it. Then typed again. And deleted again. Finally, I wrote, I have nothing left to say. I hope he treats her better than he treated me. And then I blocked both of them. Michael. And his mom. But the rejection didn't stop there. Because breakups, especially ugly ones, always come with echo effects. Mutual friends stopped inviting me out. Jenna unfollowed me the next day. My aunt sent a message saying he's moving on. Maybe you should too. As if grieving was a weakness. As if my pain had an expiration date. 1 week later, I got a wedding invite. Not from Michael. From Megan. She was renewing her vows, an Instagram thing, apparently a 10-year recommitment ceremony. The invitation had my name misspelled. And a little sticky note from my mom attached. Please don't bring drama. Megan really wants a peaceful day. There it was again. That unspoken rule of my life. Be quiet. Be small. Don't make this about you.
So, I didn't RSVP.
Didn't show up.
Didn't send a gift.
And no one asked why. Because they didn't expect me to be okay, or not okay. They just didn't expect me to matter at all. After the wedding invite, after the texts, after the silence that settled like dust across every corner of my life, I made a decision. I didn't announce it. Didn't post a quote online. Didn't sob on my Instagram story. I just started disappearing. Quietly. Gracefully. For the first time in my life, I stopped chasing people who were perfectly fine living without me. I deleted every saved number that made my chest hurt. Michael. His mom.
Jenna.
That one friend who always forgot to invite me but tagged me later.
Gone.
I unsubscribed from their lives. And suddenly I could breathe. I canceled the monthly Spotify family plan that Michael was still on. Removed his name from my Amazon Prime. Deactivated the Netflix account he used more than I did. The petty part of me wanted to send him a message. Enjoy paying for your own entertainment now. But I didn't. Silence felt stronger. More powerful. I stopped checking his socials too. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally understood something. I was never supposed to keep tabs on someone who let me go so easily. I also stopped explaining myself. When Mom called a few days later and asked, "Why didn't you respond to Megan's invite?" I simply said, "I didn't feel like it." She huffed. "She'll be disappointed." "I'm okay with that," I replied. There was a long pause on the line, the kind that felt like the cracking of old glass, and then she muttered, "Fine," before hanging up. I smiled. It wasn't a vengeful smile. It was peace. You see, when you've spent your whole life contorting to make others comfortable, your silence is mistaken for weakness. Until you stop showing up. And suddenly, they realize it was your presence that kept the room standing. I spent the next few weeks cleaning my space, not just physically but emotionally. I journaled. I lit candles at night. I took walks without music, letting the wind touch my skin and the silence hold my hand. I picked up yoga, not the kind for Instagram, but the kind that made me cry during pigeon pose because I was finally exhaling years of holding it in. And I wrote a letter to Michael. Never sent it. Just wrote it. It said things like, "I hope she makes you laugh harder than I did. I hope she loves herself enough to not lose who she is for you. And you didn't break me. You just revealed where I was already cracked." After that letter, I deleted every photo of us from my phone. Not in anger, but as a gift to myself. Letting go isn't loud. Sometimes, it's a quiet untagging of your past from your present. One morning, as I sat by my window drinking tea, the sun pouring across my knees like honey, I realized I hadn't thought about him for 3 days. 3 whole days. I whispered to myself, freedom doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it looks like peace. And I meant it. For the first time in years, I didn't need to be chosen. I had chosen myself. It happened on a Sunday. I was at my favorite bookstore downtown, one of those cozy spots with a creaky wooden floor, the smell of old paper, and a little coffee bar tucked into the back corner. I had just picked up a copy of Women Who Run with the Wolves and was standing in line for an oat milk latte when someone tapped my shoulder. "Excuse me," a soft voice said behind me. "Are you Emily Carter?" I turned. She looked vaguely familiar, mid-30s, caramel-toned skin, dark eyes that flickered with warmth. "Yes," I replied, cautious but polite. She smiled. "I thought so. You probably don't remember me. I'm Dr. Alina Hayes, Sarah's cousin." I blinked. "Sarah? As in, Sarah Lynn? The woman Michael left me for?" "I know this is unexpected," she continued, seeing the flicker in my expression. "But I've been wanting to say something for a while." I glanced around. The line had moved forward, but I stayed rooted in place. Alina took a deep breath. 2 years ago, you sat with my grandmother at the hospital. I remember you brought her homemade soup. You weren't even working that shift. You were just visiting Michael, and you stopped to help when no one else did. It came back to me in pieces. Her grandmother had fallen in the hallway. The nurse on duty was overwhelmed. I saw her on the floor, scared, confused, alone. So I sat with her, held her hand, wiped her forehead with a cool cloth. I didn't think anyone noticed. Alina smiled, eyes misting. She never forgot that. She talked about you until the day she passed. Said you made her feel seen. Said your voice reminded her of her daughters, soft, but certain. I swallowed hard. I only recently put it together. Alina went on. When Sarah got engaged to Michael, she showed me a few old photos of him. You were in some of them. I recognized your face immediately.
I didn't know what to say.
She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded card. This might be weird, but I wrote you something. I stared at the envelope. Cream-colored. No name. Just a delicate red heart drawn in the corner. Alina stepped back. You don't have to open it now. I thought you deserved to know that not everyone believed the version of you they told. With that, she gave me one last smile and walked out. I stood there for a full minute. The barista called, "Oat milk latte for Emily?" I took it, still silent, and sat down at the back corner table. My hands trembled a little as I opened the card. Inside, in neat cursive, were the words, "Emily, you were light during a very dark time. You didn't know me, but you helped anyway. You didn't gain anything, but you gave anyway. That's rare. That's real. And I just wanted you to know. You weren't invisible. You were unforgettable. Alina." I stared at the letter for a long time. No one in my life, not my mom, not my friends, not even Michael, had ever said something that beautiful about me. It didn't come from someone trying to flatter me or win me back. It came from someone who saw who I was when no one else was looking. That day, I walked out of the bookstore holding that letter like it was made of gold. Because in a world that tried so hard to erase me, someone finally had written me back in. The damage control didn't take long to arrive. It never does, not when appearances are at stake. About a week after I saw Alina, I got a message from Jenna. Not a call, not even a voice note. Just a text. "Jenna, hey, been a while. Hope you're okay. Would love to reconnect. We've all grown, you know?" I stared at the screen. No apology. No acknowledgement of the way she'd ghosted me after Michael got engaged to her best friend. No explanation for the silence after the wedding, when she posted stories of the dream day, and I wasn't even sent a pity invite. Just a breezy, "Let's reconnect." 10 minutes later, my mom called. She didn't waste time with small talk. "Emily," she sighed. "Jenna said you're being cold." I blinked. Cold. She's reaching out, trying to heal things. "Why are you being so what?" I asked gently. "So quiet? So done." My mom paused. "Look, no one's perfect. But maybe you should be the bigger person." There it was. That old phrase again. The leash they tried to wrap around my neck every time I dared walk away. Be the bigger person. I used to wear that like a badge. Now I saw it for what it was, a demand to stay small so others could stay comfortable. "I'm not angry," I said. "I just don't have anything left to give them." Another silence. Then the real reason, she called, slipped out. "Also, could you ask Alina to take down that post she made about you?" My heart dropped. "What post?" "She posted about a nurse who helped her grandmother." My mom mumbled. "Didn't name you, but people are connecting dots. It's starting to look bad. Like maybe you were the one mistreated. People are asking questions." I could have laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. When the story made them look like heroes, they shouted it from the rooftops. But the moment someone told the truth, suddenly, they were worried about how it looked. "You want me to ask her to delete her gratitude?" I asked. Mom exhaled. "Just tell her it's getting messy. Family stuff doesn't need to be public." I smiled bitterly. It had never been about protecting me. It was about protecting their image of themselves. "Maybe the truth is messy," I said. "And maybe it's about time it came out." I hung up, didn't wait for a reply. That evening, I checked Alina's post. It was still up. Still anonymous. Still kind. But the comments had filled in the blanks. "This is about Emily Carter, right? She's amazing. He left her? Huge mistake. Some people are made of gold, and others just polish their lies. For the first time in a long time, the public wasn't buying the polished version. And my silence? It was finally louder than their performance. Later that week, Michael messaged me. Just one line. Michael, can we talk? I didn't respond. I didn't delete it either. Just let it sit there, unread, a reminder that the same people who erased you will always return when your absence starts costing them something. I didn't need revenge. Their own conscience would do the work. It was a rainy Thursday when I received the voicemail that changed everything. I was curled up on my living room couch, a cup of mint tea in my hands, the sound of soft jazz playing from a nearby speaker. The world felt still, a peaceful kind of silence I had fought hard to earn. I noticed the missed call. Alina Hayes. She'd never called before. I hesitated, then pressed play. Her voice came through the speaker, warm and clear. Hi, Emily. I hope this isn't too forward, but I've been meaning to say this, and writing it didn't feel like enough. So here I am, leaving you a message, hoping it reaches you on a day when you need it. You probably don't realize the ripple effect you caused in my life. That day you helped my grandmother. I was watching. I had just gotten out of a terrible shift, angry at the system, exhausted by people's indifference. And then I saw you kneel down beside her. You didn't look rushed. You didn't act like she was a burden. You just were there. Her voice trembled slightly. I remember standing in the hallway, watching you wipe her tears and whisper something that made her laugh. And I thought, this is what kindness looks like. This is what medicine is supposed to be. You reminded me why I became a doctor. Later that year, I decided to apply for a fellowship in elder care. Because of you. Because of that moment. You didn't just save my grandmother's dignity that day. You saved my faith. My hand clutched the tea mug tighter. Tears slid down my cheek before I even realized I was crying. I know you've been through things I can't fully understand. I know people have hurt you, and I know they made it seem like you were the problem. But I need you to hear this, from someone with no agenda, no history, no family politics. You are never the problem. You are the standard. You are the one people should aspire to be like. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. There was a pause. Then her voice softened even more. So, if no one told you today, thank you. For your courage. For your softness. For being a light when the room was full of shadows. You mattered then. You matter now. And I hope you never again let small minds shrink your shine.
Click.
The message ended. I sat there, motionless. So many years, I had waited to be seen. So many birthdays spent in silence. So many holidays spent feeling like an afterthought. So many rooms where I was present but not acknowledged. And now, a stranger had seen me more clearly than the people who claimed to love me. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't viral. It was truth. And it was more powerful than any spotlight I could have stepped into. I wrote her back that night. Just one line. Thank you for seeing me. And I meant it, with every inch of my healed heart. They tried one last time. It was a Sunday afternoon when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I had just finished repotting the new fiddle leaf fig I'd bought for my balcony, a tiny joy I never would have let myself indulge in a year ago. I peeked through the peephole. Michael. Alone. No bouquet. No ring. No grand speech. Just him. Standing in the hallway like he didn't burn it all down. For a moment, my breath caught in my throat. Not because I missed him. Not because I hoped for something. But because I finally felt nothing. I opened the door. He didn't speak at first. Just looked at me, his eyes searching mine like he was trying to recognize a version of me that no longer existed. You look, he began, trailing off. Different. I am, I said, calm and still. He nodded like he understood that already. I shouldn't have married her. There it was, the confession I used to dream of hearing. The line I imagined on sleepless nights, wondering what I did wrong, what I could have done differently.
But now?
It didn't land. It didn't heal. It didn't matter. I was scared, he continued. Scared of how real it felt with you. How you actually saw me. With her It was easier. Surface level. No expectations. I raised an eyebrow. You thought I expected too much from you? I guess, he looked down. You made me want to be better. And I wasn't ready for that. I nodded slowly. It was the most honest thing he'd ever said. But honesty doesn't rewind time. And growth doesn't always mean reunion. So, why are you here? I asked. I miss you, he admitted. Not just as a partner, but as a person. I miss how safe you made the world feel. He took a step forward. I know I can't undo it, but I was hoping we could talk. Start fresh. Maybe. No, I said gently. Just one word. No anger. No tears. No dramatic pause. Just peace. His mouth parted slightly, like he was waiting for a follow-up explanation. I didn't offer one, because I didn't know one. And he knew it. He stepped back. Okay, he whispered. I just had to try. I understand, I said. And I did. He nodded again, turned, and walked down the hallway. I closed the door behind him, then locked it. Not out of fear, but closure. Not because I was hiding, but because I had nothing left to give to people who only show up once you've already rebuilt what they broke. The wind rustled outside. My fiddle leaf caught a bit of that breeze through the cracked window. And I smiled. Not because something began, but because something finally ended. And it ended on my terms. If you've made it this far, thank you. Not just for listening to my story, but for feeling it. For sitting with the ache, the silence, the quiet decisions that changed everything. Because maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've been the one who gave everything and watched them choose someone else. Maybe you were the backbone of people who forgot you were a person. Maybe you kept showing up, even when no one noticed. Or worse, they noticed and still looked the other way. I used to think closure came with explanations. That if I could just make them understand how much they hurt me, I'd finally be free. But now I know. Freedom doesn't come from being understood. It comes from understanding yourself. Here's what I've learned, and I hope you remember this, even when the nights get heavy. You're not too emotional. You're not too intense. You're not too much. You are just too real for people who are comfortable pretending. And yes, there will be those who leave. But let them. Because one day, someone will walk in and say, I see you. All of you. And I don't want you to shrink. For me, that someone was a stranger who left a voicemail. For you, it might be a partner, a child, a kind coworker, a moment of stillness that wraps around you like a hug. But until then, be your own witness. Honor your tears. Celebrate your silence. And never beg to be chosen. They married someone else. And I married peace. I married growth. I married a version of myself that I used to only dream of becoming. And trust me, she's happier, younger in spirit, and richer in every way that counts. So, if you're sitting in the ashes right now, wondering if the fire will ever stop,
It will.
and what rises next won't just surprise them. It'll stun you. Because healing isn't quiet. It's a roar that starts as a whisper, the moment you finally say, I deserve more.
And, darling,
You always did.